Welcome back, welcome back. EU has 2 more sets to play today. We will have a little look at the settings in a moment, but the first thing I want to tell you about is the caster. You guys can sign up if you think you have the potential to be a caster, you want to show off your skills, head over there, apply at thecaster.tv for a chance to win $10,000 if you can be first place.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of gems as well to be taken on the table. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it, Hindu.
I mean, you got to quit, first of all, because you can't be at hi-rez and also apply. Just doesn't work
I didn't
that
read
way.
the fine print.
Did you not?
Make sure you guys also read the fine print.
Make sure you read the fine print too, because you never know. But it is international as well, so don't make like that. No, it's not just North America anymore. Thecaster.tv, if you are a European, Australian, South African, South American, I just could name it 100 places. If you're from
Antarctica.
If you're from anywhere, you can apply. I didn't even realize it was you on the desk, Tolly. I was used to that useless piece of rubbish next to me aggro, so I'm really surprised to see some quality on the desk with me.
That's what happens when you go from a fat egg to just a regular egg.
You call yourself a regular egg.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
It's better than whatever you were about to throw at me.
No, I wasn't going to be mean or anything. You hit yourself. I'll move on. Standings is what I want to look at now, because we've got Rival versus Elevate and Sanguine versus Energy, the last 2 sets of the day. Now, obviously, the top 2 are locked in for Masters, Tolly, but the rest will come to the Gauntlet LAN here, okay? And that really is important now when you look at the points to make sure that you're in the right position for the Gauntlet LAN to not have to play too many games to get an extra spot.
Absolutely. Elevate are currently sitting at 7 points. Rival are sitting at 5, tied with Lion Guard currently. Very important step for both of these teams just to get 1 step above in that ladder. Not to mention, Elevate could potentially go over Energy if they find the 2 here, and if Energy lose both of their games against Sanguine in the last set.
And Rival for them at the bottom as well. If they can find a win here, or even just a split against Elevate, they will climb above Lion Guard, which is 1 less game they will have to play in the Gauntlet heading forward.
Very important for both of these teams now just to climb their way out of the Gauntlet. But talking about these 2 teams, Rival versus Elevate, you know, both of these teams kind of struggling a little bit in the beginning of the split, trying to rebuild their foundation. You know, Elevate losing 2 members, so it could be an interesting dynamic between these 2 teams.
Really could. Who'd you got on paper here, Tolly? If you had to put your money on one, or are you going to go split?
I got to give it to Rival here. Their chemistry is still solid here. They made no changes since Season 3.
That's true. Well, these 2 teams have been fighting in this lower half of the division for a while now. It's time to head over to the box and Taco to go through this set.
Thank you, Graham.
We're
ready to go. That's me, I guess.
Hey,
the cardboard box. I don't know if you heard our little exchange.
I think he was referring to Xbox, you know, when you used to be on a team with Chapo.
Yes, I remember that, but he was also, if you were watching our last segment, which was beautifully done, by the way, and if you weren't watching, then you messed up, he referred to me as cardboard. I don't understand. I still don't get it. It must be an English sort of accent, or well, it is the English accent, but an insult. That's the word I'm looking for. Kepri, Susano, Hunbats, Kabrakan. Pretty standard bans across the board here for both teams. And Rival immediately going to lock in Thor for iCeicebaby.
Standard bans, but I'm not so sure about seeing any standard gameplay coming out between these 2 teams.
True.
Like Tolly and Hindu mentioned, they're both really trying to establish themselves at this point in time for that Gauntlet seeding. And considering the matchup, I think that this could be a fairly clean game between the 2 of them.
I agree. Both these teams definitely pretty competitive in terms of where they are with one another. Rival, you saw on the standings, has a chance to jump over Lion Guard, and we've seen how important that is in these Gauntlet sort of series to just even eliminate 1 game that you have to play. It ups your chances pretty significantly. Typical duo lane draft right away here for Elevate. Ram, Fafnir, that's going to be the Bruise Brothers in the duo lane for Elevate. But Ullr and Bellona, that Ullr selection for me, Taco, I think that's going to be for Wlfy in the mid lane.
I would lean more towards placing that in the mid lane than what I would into the duo lane, especially in a matchup against a Ram where it can be a little bit unfavorable. But at the same time, one thing to really consider is Rival and Elevate, while they look pretty even on paper, we've seen Elevate take games off of some pretty top-tier teams in EU so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if they really showed and came through today. And right now, Elevate's draft, it's speaking one thing to me, and there it is burst.
A lot of burst, really looking to set up off that Naja ultimate from Faeles. It's going to be Ra in the mid lane there for nulisa. Isis, so that is going to be Ullr in the duo lane, unless there's some sort of crazy shenanigans that we aren't expecting. Wlfy going to be looking to get some pressure. That's one of the oldest combinations in Smite, Taco. Isis Thor mid jungle combination. It just screams pressure.
And on top of that, with the Ymir pick being placed in on the side of Rival, you have to consider how much AoE and map control this team could potentially have with the Ymir Isis Thor. That's a really strong 3v3 composition as opposed to the Fafnir Ra, which takes a little bit more execution if you want to pull that off like entirely.
Tons of CC all across the board there for Rival. Everyone on Rival has a stun in their kit, so you know that Elevate's going to have to get that purification beads, maybe even early purification beads upgrade potentially to knock down that cooldown a little bit.
It wouldn't be anything to overlook, and I'm sure that Elevate are probably keeping that in mind because they're trying to run the dual Guardian frontline that we've seen so many teams opt for during this season in particular, but Rival, not necessarily the same story.
No, a little bit of a different sort of take here for Rival. No sustain really on their side. Isis can, of course, provide a burst sustain courtesy of her ultimate, but nothing compared to that of the heal coming out of nulisa. And that's going to be the story, I think, between these two teams. Just looking at the composition strictly here, can Elevate find the initial kill in the team fight? If Rival are able to withstand the initial burst of the Naja ultimate and the Searing Pain from nulisa, it could be difficult to Elevate to lock a target down and find the kill.
And especially when you have to consider that Rival probably does have a little bit more dual lane pressure from the get-go. I think it can make the team fights really interesting early on in those initial jungle buff cycles.
Well, either way, we're going to have to wait and see who gets the end of the pressure. Sometimes what looks to be the pressure on paper doesn't always turn out, but Rival looks to be getting the better of Elevate early on here in this dual lane. On the right-hand side, you can see just how much pressure Wlfy and iceicebaby were able to exert on that mid lane, already sealing away the enemy speed buff. nulisa was left by herself to start off the game, knowing that she wouldn't have pressure. Now there's a fight going on right around those right side elementals. Faeles getting very, very low, and iceicebaby able to clean him up for the easy first blood. Rival first on the board.
And that's just a really unfortunate circumstance for Faeles to find himself in, was just trying to sneakily loop around, potentially look for some kind of steal on the speed buff or elementals, but I mean, as an Ajah, the mobility isn't exactly your strong point, and facing off against a Thor Isis, that's just an all too easy rotation for Icice and Wlfy to make.
You can already see exactly why this combination is so time-tested, is this Isis-Thor combination. CC, pressure, damage in the early game. You got plenty of that in all three of those categories. iceicebaby off to an early lead in that jungle, sitting up a level on Faeles, who doesn't have a whole lot to farm in his own jungle right now, Taco. It's literally only the right side back camps that are available to him in terms of things that are guaranteed on his side.
That's always worst case scenario for a jungler, especially in the Xia at that, considering that I don't think that Elevate were necessarily anticipating to lose their entire jungle. Sure, maybe a buff or two from the get-go because of the Isis Thor, but getting the blue buff stripped away as well, and that was just Deathwalker solo invading.
And that's what you kind of sign up for when you put a Guardian in that solo lane, though, isn't it? I mean, no numbers on this Xing Chen does a lot for you in terms of his team fighting potential, his mid to late game, excellent poke because it's percentage-based HP on Furious Roar. But there's not a whole lot to write about in terms of his early game laning phase.
And that's probably the main concern for Elevate at this point in time, is that early to mid game is really what Rival is trying to capitalize on here. I mean, when you draft Thor, Ymir, Isis, you're certainly looking to just take up every single early game trade that is possible. And now, considering that they're already with the upper hand, I mean, this could become really snowbally really fast.
I really like this draft overall from Rival, because we saw them on Thursday up against Obey in the game 2, where it was a much more, you know, some would call it a clown fiesta, and I probably would as well when I was watching it, but it was very, they seem to excel at these early game team fights where it's a little bit chaotic. They want to throw the game into an organized chaos, and they can really do that with this sort of composition. I'd like to see them try and fight basically all the time with this sort of comp.
Well, I mean, Rival are a team that are certainly known for getting up in your face at all points in time, and it's probably what they do best. They just absolutely love to brawl amongst each other, and with the freedom to do so due to this draft, I mean, anything is possible.
Right now, they're up 1 kill to 0. Still got that first blood vote. Dancing along.
Breaking it down on the Ullr in the dual lane.
It's a solid dance emote. We don't see enough people use dance emotes.
I personally, Fafnir will always be my favorite one.
Really? I really like Thor's. Thor's got really, Team Rivals drafted an excellent dance emote squad here. Ullr, top tier dance emote. Thor, one of my personal favorites. They've got a lot going for them. What does Elevate have? Does anyone on Elevate even have a dance emo yet? I don't think so. I don't think any of those characters. This game is
But
just
Rom does
outdrafted.
have the best spam laugh in the game.
That is without a doubt.
And a Ra.
Deathwalker all by himself on this right-hand side, but he's returning that damage onto no numbers with no fear whatsoever. We know Deathwalker likes to play this Bellona, and we know that Rival likes to distract and grab the objective. Gold Fury quickly in their favor. Faeles secures his speed, but they lose the Gold Fury because of it. Excellent macro play here from Team Rival. No numbers tossing Deathwalker into tower, but that might have hurt him more than it helped him. Deathwalker thought about going for it, but ultimately lets him back.
Unfortunately, Deathwalker just couldn't find the cooldowns in time to secure that early kill onto no numbers. And going back to that Gold Fury steal, that was so well played by Rival. They knew the Elevate were going to rotate to the jungle camp to try and secure that speed for Faeles, or just at the very least ensure that they don't lose both of their buffs for free the second time around. And so that was absolutely perfect shot calling by Rival to immediately go for the Gold Fury.
Utilizing that Isis early. We always talk about it when it comes to Isis. Objective secure is the name of her game, and Rival are definitely putting that to use. Both Oracles go the way of Rival, securing them some extra vision on that left-hand side, though Faeles has really seemed to commit to farming at this stage. In fact, he's farmed so hard he hasn't backed yet since that first blood, still hasn't even started his boots.
That's kind of the main issue that he's had here. He's probably backing right now, actually, to pick up those boots so he can have a little bit of damage online, because in order to really utilize this Ra-Neja combination, you've got to have the burst coming through, and that's not going to happen when you don't have boots online for Neja.
Well, now Faeles has it, and nulisa still needs to finish off those penetration boots for herself in the mid lane. That's when we, I think, could start to see some big plays coming out of Faeles and his mid laner, nulisa. Nulisa didn't start the season on this team for Elevate, but has absolutely come in and really showed some really improved play, I would say.
Playing and having the experience that she did in the last split has really helped her out, and now Vote having to force out the purification beads, that could have been a really bad situation, but that's kind of what Neja just does best, is force those actives.
And that's where those are the types of fights that Neja wants to take, not the 4v4s, the 3v3s. He wants to take those outnumbered engagements or even engagements where it's low numbers of players, because Neja obviously puts himself in a bad position whenever he uses that artillery sash. So those sorts of scenarios where there's not a whole lot of danger for Neja going in, those are the ideal situations for Faeles.
And Callus is such a thoughtful support, man. Just recognizes that his hunter wanted to back and waited for him to come up the lane holding that creep wave perfectly. If that was, I can't imagine many Guardians who would forfeit that kind of free farm.
Especially on a god like Ymir, who can free farm that wave very, very easily, clear it for himself. Callus always thinking of the squad. He's backed himself and finished off that Mark of the Vanguard. Started into what looks to be an early Gauntlet of Thebes here, I would guess, with that Emerald Talisman tree being started up. Don't imagine it's gonna. You can't really build Shield of Regrowth on Ymir. It doesn't have a heal or anything of the sort. Thebes has been a popular support pickup early on in this season 4. And on the right-hand side, Rival again using that pressure to their advantage, securing the enemy speed.
With the Gold Fury being down, Rival have no concern in the world and can exert as much presence as they want into the jungle of Team Elevate right now.
Wlfy is really controlling this game nicely on this Isis. Mid pressure is so important in terms of where the rest of your team is allowed to be on the map. Yes, it's an iceicebaby on this Thor that's really done the most of the damage, but he's going to eat some damage right now. Callus with a nice wall preventing the chase in from Elevate. nulisa does tag Ice with that snipe, but not enough damage to finish him off. But going back to the mid-pressure point, it's so much about how much can their mid-rotate, can our mid-rotate, that dictates where you can invade around the map, probably more so than anything else.
You can just tell already that Wlfy is feeling really comfortable in this Isis. He almost has a 1k gold lead clean over nulisa right now, so his itemization is going to be at least half an item or even a full item to a certain extent ahead of her, and because of that, it can make fights really uncomfortable for Elevate.
Callus with the wall and freeze combination forces out that purification beads from Faeles, and it's a perfect time to do so with that Gold Fury. Going to be ready to go and respawn in about 30 seconds right now. And with how much CC Rival has, Faeles cannot feel comfortable without his purification beads ready to go. Tier 1 tower, that's going to fall in favor of Rival, who have only, the first blood happened in, 35, 40 seconds into the game, and ever since then it's just been Rival daring Elevate to fight them, and Elevate really hasn't taken it.
And this is already so rough for Elevate. The issue there was even if Elevate hadn't been back during that point in time, I mean, you saw the duo lane was just farming out their lane, but even if nulisa had been present, they couldn't have contested that tower. Both of them, Faeles doesn't have his actives up. nulisa was just not really enough damage to try and punish anybody underneath that T1 tower. And 4 members strong, Rival are looking really good in this early game.
No Numbers has arrived on this left-hand side. All of Elevate grouping up. There's the wall from Collis, which prevents Faeles from being able to use that Windfire wheels. Great wall out of him. Deathwalker pretty far forward, but he is level 11, the highest level in the game right now outside of Wlfy, who's sitting at a monstrous level 12, less than 10 minutes in. That is unlikely for mid laners to be this far ahead in terms of levels compared to the rest of the teams. Both players really in the mid lane.
That's actually the first time I have ever seen an Ymir wall in the SPL block off the follow-up attack from the Ninja Sash.
Collis has been on point with these Ymir walls, and he's really been setting a lot up. There he is once more, making sure Jermain's feeling the pressure, uses the purification beads, and maybe forced to ult here as iceicebaby thought about going in, but the pressure and response from the rest of Elevate is good enough. Jermain does use the ultimate just in case, and the meditation, and iceicebaby only forced to expend his ultimate. And again, it all comes back to that Ymir freeze coming out of Collis.
The thing is that when you get Ymir frozen at that point in time, Jermain didn't opt to use his purification beads immediately because he was kind of just anticipating eating the damage from the Ymir too. But because he held the beads and Iceice unable to follow up, those in-hands already chunking away with the Ickful build.
He already very, very strong for Jermain, but no lifesteal. So this poke composition for Rival could really come into play here. Just the long-range Ullr damage, the long-range Spirit Balls, the double taps, all of that going to be very, very effective up against Jermain, at least until nulisa is able to finish off Roderick Sleppy, as Gold Fury committed onto here by Team Rival. Circle of Protection and Shards of Ice is enough to secure the Gold Fury through the Raw Snipe, and Rival walk away with their second big objective of the game.
And that's kind of just a freebie. I mean, at this stage of the game, you have the Isis ultimate available, and as soon as Elevate recognized that the Isis ultimate had been dropped, at that point in time, they're mostly just thinking about, can we capitalize on this and maybe find a follow-up kill or two to see if we can push down their T1 tower, but just that option completely unavailable with the heal coming through off the ultimate, and then just the perfect disengage, just nobody really able to get punished.
Both these characters on the side of Rival, Isis and Ymir, excel at securing early Gold Furies. On the other side for Elevate, Ra, one of the best characters in the game in terms of stealing away objectives, but well played between both Collis and Wlfy to secure that Gold Fury over the top of the damage coming in from nulisa.
I think it was also a smart play by nulisa not to opt to use her Raw ultimate at that point in time, because or to try and capitalize off of it with the steal. There was just not enough follow-up potential for Elevate to really chase through onto that objective after she had initially used it, and so pretty safe.
Looking for Jermain, no purification beads and no life. iceicebaby puts number 2 on the board for Rival, his second as well. 2-0-0 for the jungler, who a lot of people in Europe have a lot of respect for, Taco. The casual SPL watcher may not think of iceicebaby in terms of top junglers in Europe, but he certainly gets that respect from his colleagues.
We just haven't necessarily had a chance to really see iceicebaby shine so far in any of the sets that they've played this split. But, I mean, he's certainly still a mechanically gifted player, and certainly not one to underlook.
He's killing it right now. He's up 2 levels over Faeles. No Numbers still having some trouble with this matchup in the solo lane. Deathwalker, every time I see Deathwalker on Bellona, I'm excited because I know he's going to have an excellent game. He always looks so comfortable. Now he's here with Collis. Collis actually going to get tossed into that tier 2 tower, but Ice cleans up number 3 for Rival as well as for himself. And that's that pressure that you kind of have to worry about when you put a Guardian up against a Warrior in that solo lane.
For No Numbers, that was kind of just a last-ditch effort. Maybe toss Callis far enough into that T2 so that his team can catch up and potentially pick up another kill onto him, but unfortunately, he's just going to lose his tower, and considering that Rival already took the Gold Fury, I mean, now they're just free reign onto the Portal Demon.
And with no tier 1 tower on the right, it's going to be difficult for Elevate to run away if this engagement were to go poorly, especially because there's also no tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Portal Demon does go the way of Rival, who are up almost 10,000 gold right now, Taco, with 3 kills. They're up almost 8,000 gold with 3 kills. It's just been pressure points over and over and over again. Rival look like acupuncturists. They're just putting the needles in the right spots to prevent Elevate from fighting them. iceicebaby looking to prevent Faeles from getting yet another speed buff. Can't quite find the ultimate. Disengages immediately. There's the Artillery Sash onto Deathwalker. Speed buff does go the way of Team Elevate, but they do not want to fight into this lead that Rival have earned for themselves. No numbers, already getting low just between the 2 tanky targets, Deathwalker and Kalas.
And this is just such an incredibly awkward situation for Elevate to be in. It's like they want to defend their jungle and they want to potentially try and turn around these fights, but they're just too far behind to do so.
Good news for Elevate is that Jermain hung out on that left side and got 500 gold for the squad. Bad news for Elevate, no numbers is in trouble, just able to get away from iceicebaby, who's just been all over the map so far. Tier 2 tower, the focus early on here for Rival. Jermain starting to head back over. There's a sash in. Dardez up into the dragon, but Faeles gets exploded right off the bat. No numbers, doesn't even get to toss Kalas after that ultimate. Jermain looking for the snipes, does find all 3, but it's not enough damage to finish anyone from Rival off. Deathwalker in trouble, does get that tier 2 tower. Jermain pops the purification beads, and he falls. Vote puts number 6 for Rival up there on the scoreboard, and Deathwalker med baits Jermain perfectly.
That was so unfortunate for Jermain. You could tell he was so hungry to try and pick up a kill onto maybe Vote or even Kalas. I mean, as an ADC, and you're opting for such an aggressive build like Jermain has done, you want to think that you're going to be able to pick up a kill or two, and that's why you burn out the purification beads in such an aggressive manner to see if you could potentially get off the damage. And it's just so unlucky that he couldn't find anything. 1v4, an immediate turnaround from Rival was excellent.
And Jermain really doesn't have a lot of damage in that build. It's aggressive in terms of the attack speed and some good penetration, but without finishing off that 3rd item quite yet, it's going to be difficult for him to actually make it happen. Dardez trying to sneak away this purple buff, will only be able to do so, but now my man's in a bad spot. iceicebaby isn't going to find the wall, but does find the nice double tap anyways, but Dardez, without the rest of the full commit from Rival, Dardez was safe to just jump away.
Iceice has been really on point with these Thor double taps as well, and also you'd be surprised just how much damage an Ickful can really do to a player once they're getting free casted on.
Very true, but even still, I mean, Jermain is still only level 12. It's going to be difficult for him to really burst anyone on Rival down at this stage. Even Kalas is up a level on the Hunter for Elevate. Tier 1 tower on left side falls. Only 2 towers left standing right now for Elevate, who are getting blanked on the scoreboard by Rival. No numbers, waltzes into the wrong neighborhood, but no one there. iceicebaby just creating that zone. Gold Fury down below half HP. Dardez was thinking about putting up a prayer there, a Hail Mary hammer, but decides not to as Rival secures Gold Fury number 3, just 16 minutes in. Rival's just suffocating Elevate.
Another issue for Elevate too is that no numbers actually opted for this blink on Xing 10, which it's a good mindset to have. It's a very strong active for a Xing 10 to pick up, but when your team is so far behind and you're hitting that level 12 mark, I would have preferred to see him opt for a shell, maybe for the side of Elevate, because with the blink, your intentions are to be aggressive and to go in and frontline, potentially set your team up for kills. But when the whole of Elevate has pretty much no follow-up damage at this stage of the game because of the fact that they got off on such a big deficit for both gold and experience, you just can't initiate as a Xing 10.
Maybe it's to juke and blink away as Rival chase him.
I mean, that's always a possibility, but for the most part, no numbers has always been a bit of an aggressive solo laner. We've seen him, he's much like Deathwalker in that he loves to brawl. It's just, this isn't necessarily the game that he has a very high potential to brawl in.
Yeah, trolls aside, I absolutely agree with you. Another blink actually picked up by Faeles, though that one maybe a little bit more understandable. If Elevate are able to find that one-shot potential that this composition still has onto into a guy like iceicebaby or possibly Wlfy, maybe that turns a fight in their favor. Maybe Faeles can help combine with nulisa. But that's going to be a lot to ask of both of these players as Elevate are on the run once more. Faeles uses that artillery sash to interrupt Deathwalker. Deathwalker wasn't really trying to do anything. He was just making sure that Rival strip away another objective from Elevate without any sort of contention. Tier 2 tower now gone.
And with Portal Demon being available, Rival aren't even considering it. They're just immediately going straight for that FG, and Ice's ultimate's been placed down, but nobody on Elevate is even anywhere near. They know they can't contest.
Fire Giant at the 18-minute mark goes Rival's way. Look at the player damage charts. I mean, Wlfy has done less player damage than everyone on Rival. But that's not a shot at Wlfy. That is an okay stat line for Isis to have because it's just about the threat and the control for the objectives.
Player damage as a whole just hasn't been very high in this game, and there's nothing wrong with that considering the fact that Elevate have been making the smarter decisions to not try and engage into Team Rival. Once they recognized that they were down 6k gold, their entire team's usually a level behind the whole of Rivals. I mean, there's no reason for Elevate to try and take up any sort of awkward fights. Like you mentioned with the Najah picking up the Blink, that's more so Elevate trying to just look for the drop ship onto one of the carries for Rival, probably potentially Ice since he doesn't have any defense online right now, or even Wlfy or Vote. But if they can maybe secure one kill, it could turn a team fight. I'm just not certain that they have the damage for the follow-up afterwards.
I mean, they're down a whopping 16,000 gold. They've lost almost 1,000 gold a minute to Rival. It's just a hemorrhaging right now. This is a scientific dissection of a team by Rival. They only fight when they need to, and they just take whatever they want. Kalas and the rest of the team trying to get this Phoenix at the 19-minute mark. That's what they want this time around. No numbers. Takes about half his HP from a stun and is basically dead by the time he's allowed to move his character again. Hail of Arrows not quite there for Vote, but another beautiful wall by Kalas. Circle of protection dropped on this left side Phoenix. It's going to be a big burst heal and a big burst on a Dardez. Wlfy gets the kill with that circle of protection. He just doubled his player damage with one engagement. Dardez popped like a balloon on that circle of protection.
Dardez just got absolutely fragged. Like, there's no surviving that.
Here's the blink in from no numbers. There's the value, and we didn't get a whole lot of it. Blocked off, in fact, from the escape. Fails, tries to get his ultimate off, but dies before he could even do so. Vote picks up yet another in this fight. Jermain goes up, sees everything that's going on, and says, yeah, I don't even like the view from up here. I'm just going to head back into my fountain. Team Rival trying to close out game number 1 with a perfect 9-0. Double freeze, double spirit ball, double berserker's barrage, but it's not quite enough for iceicebaby to pick up the kills. If Rival had a Nike, they wouldn't have even gotten the tier 2 passive yet,
I was waiting for Jermain to pick up the kill onto Vote, and then Vote could have been the feeder of the game, but it just...
9-0.
Wow, that is
vivisection of Elevate there by Team Rival. I mean, we talked about it from the very beginning, Taco. It's, you know, pressure, pressure, pressure. If you didn't understand what pressure can do in a Smite game, you just learned. Because it wasn't even, like you mentioned, the player damage wasn't particularly high. It was just, Rival had pressure.
I mean, we saw at the end the blink value that No Numbers tried to establish on that Xing 10, except it just went nowhere. He blinked forward, and it was like he was buying time for his team to get closer to their fountain and run away. That's what it felt like.
I'll hold them off. I'll hold the door. Hodor.
Oh, not like this.
Too soon.
Really? It's still too soon.
It's almost back, though. I'm excited.